Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, attraction coach and founder of The Goddess Next Door. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hey, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I have Yasmine Khater with me today, an award-winning business and marketing strategist, psychologist, and TEDx speaker. She's helped people to quit their jobs, start and scale their 6- and 7-figure small businesses through building trust-based marketing and sales funnels, developing airtight systems, and a fearless mindset. Yasmine believes in changing the world through business. And today, she and I talk about entrepreneurship and how to build your empire one client at a time through fearless sales. But before I talk with Yasmine, as women, we often face an inner battle, not feeling confident as business owners and are unable to step into our own power. I want to tell you about something really special coming up in October. The Be Great Conference is going to help you have success on your own terms through creating alignment between great work and great money and learning to trust your badass entrepreneurial self to change the world. Plus, you'll meet some of the most amazing people while you're there. In fact, you are going to see some of your favorite past Awakened Goddess Show guests presenting at the conference. Mike Iamelli, Dory Epstein Ransom, Reverend Erin Ashley Khater, and two-time guest, the badass herself, Annie Anderson. Ready to be great? Register by September 1st to get the early bird discount. And as a proud sponsor of the Be Great Conference, when you email me your registration receipt, I'm going to give you 3 months membership to Spark Spiritual Academy. So go to the bottom of today's show page or bit.ly/BeGreatCon. That's bit.ly/BeGreatCon, all lowercase, right now and get your ticket to this life-changing event. Because it is time to unleash your greatness into the world. And now let's talk with Yasmine. Welcome, Yasmine, to the Awakened Goddess Show. I am super excited to have you join me today to talk about fearless sales, building your empire one client at a time. So welcome.
Thanks, Angela. I'm so happy to be here with you as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to just dive right in because I know we have lots of cool stuff to cover. So what have you found that are the most common mistakes that new business owners make?
So the one rookie mistake that they make is they get obsessed about that they want to buy, but not what the customer wants to buy. And they spend a lot of time like developing it further and thinking about themselves when in reality, actually, the customer just wants the problem solved. Another rookie mistake that I see happen over and over again is they spend too much time like developing the brand, developing the product, developing all these things, but they have no customers. So like people haven't it's actually a nightmare. Like one of the girls who came to me last year, I didn't work with her in the end. But she had already sunk in $18,000 on actually designing a website, and she didn't have even a single customer.
Wow.
And for me, like I have very much like the lean startup machine like mentality, where it's just like as you make more money, then spend more money. Because first of all, you spend the money, maybe you hate the idea, right? Maybe the customers don't even pay for the idea. And like you're too like invested emotionally into this one like idea or like kind of idea for the business that you actually realize that you can't shift it because you're so sunk in and you spend a lot of money. So like you become very emotionally attached to something that may not actually work at all.
Let's talk about this first thing that you mentioned about creating something that you want versus maybe what the customer wants. So can you give an example of what that would look like?
So right now there's a big surge of all these like life coaches, right? Mm-hmm. And life coaching is fantastic, but a customer doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I want a life coach. A customer wakes up in the morning and say, I want to figure out my career. I want to figure out, in terms of my brand messaging. I want to figure out whatever. So if you start using all these weird jargons that they don't understand, they cannot find you. So like in terms of like, you might go on a tangent by doing that, but nobody actually wants it. Or even when it comes to product ideas. Maybe, for example, you're taking something that already exists and making it slightly better, but nobody cares enough to buy it slightly better. Mm-hmm. So if you see, for example, like on Shark Tank, tons of examples come on where like they have an idea that it's okay, but I'm not going to spend more money for something that's just good enough with the solution we already have. Mm-hmm. And it's because people like say, oh, wouldn't that be cool? And then they don't even actually ask the customer. They just go on the spiral. And the problem is they'll ask their friends and family. And your friends and family are lovely, but they're lying to you. They love you. They want to protect you. They're not. This is the reality. Yeah. They want to protect you. So they want to support you no matter what. They don't want to sound like a douchebag. So for them, they want to tell you, of course you're doing something that's amazing. But in reality, maybe nobody needs it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like that really speaks to identifying what the problem is that you're solving, and then when you're marketing, talking about the benefits. And you know, I know I'm not the only person out there, but for some reason, I feel when I've tried to come up with the benefits, we'll talk about coaching, for example, it's like I'm speaking Greek. And for some reason, my brain has a hard time translating, you know, what what it is that I do into an outcome or a benefit to them. So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times we use these things that we've learned, right? So for example, you go to school, you learn these words like
transformation,
transformation, or like, you know, you're going to have like an elevation of your energy. And I'm like, what the hell do these things actually mean, right? So typically what I recommend people is like, actually when you coach a client, hear the words that they're using. Mm. So when I have a session with a client, I write everything down. So like when I have my copywriter write things for me, I literally give her the list of things that I actually have heard, and she'll put it into the copy. Because in the end of the day, like, use their words. It sounds really basic, but that's the best way to go. And then they'll tell you, oh my gosh, like, that is exactly how I feel. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because I've heard that not only from you, but from multiple clients as well as prospects, hear the same thing on repeat, right?
Yeah.
So for example, as I line on my copy for one of my programs, and it says, you don't need to have like 1,000 Facebook followers. You don't need to have a bajillion people on your list to actually make your first 5K, right? Now, people have come to me and said, I'm really frustrated. I don't know where to start. Do I have to have Facebook fans? Do I have to have Twitter? Do I have to have, you know, like 1,000 people on my list? And I used exactly what they said and just put it into my copy. And people read it like, oh my gosh, I can relate. I'm like, yes, I know, because I've heard that for the past 2 years. So like, I'm using the exact words that you're using. So I think it's really about putting yourself into that customer thing. And one of the things that I recommend my clients to do, and I recommend everyone to do actually, is if you don't know what the benefits are, get on the phone with a client or a past client and ask them, right? They will tell you stuff that you will not even imagine. So like, I do this every time I run my Earn 5K program. I do it every single time. So like, for example, like I just did it the last 2 weeks ago, and like a couple people were telling me something like, oh, I didn't realize that was actually a benefit. So now I'm going to add the benefit. So we talk about in our live calls pitching, right, to clients and even to people. So they all become pro at pitching. So in the end, it's like, oh, okay. So like one of the benefits they get is you become confident in pitching yourself in an audience. Now, I didn't know that, but they're telling me this. So I obviously know I have to adapt my sales page and add more stuff, because those are the words from their mouth coming out.
Yeah. And when you say it, it sounds so simple, and it totally makes sense. That's just a tweak that you need to make to start listening for that.
Yeah, and actually, if it comes to like, for most people who are struggling even with clients, if you just listen more, it's amazing how many more clients you'll get just by listening. Because people are pretty straightforward. They tell you what they want. They don't go around the bush. They tell you what they want. What happens that comes in the way is that we have our own emotional blocks, right? We'll say, oh, well, they can't afford this, or they can't do this. And actually, you're hearing your own voice versus hearing your customer's voice. And when you get too involved in your own voice, you don't sell anything.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great point, how you are making decisions for them.
Yep. And to be honest, I did it myself,
Yeah.
right? Whenever anyone starts, like, it's normal. So if you were going through that, like, I'm not even pretending like I didn't know any better. Like, I used to do sales in my last job, but when it came to my own business and my own time, all of a sudden it wasn't the same, because
Right.
it's like me.
Yeah.
And like, who would pay for me? But for my old company, I was working in oil and gas. I'm like, yeah, of course, like, you need our stuff. But for little old me, no, you don't need me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just because of my little inner noise that was going on. So it's normal. But the idea is to realize that you can't listen to that voice. You have to actually be here and present with the person you're speaking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So you're on the phone with them. They're basically telling you what they want to hear. And then how is it that you communicate your value that will actually convert them into clients?
So when I look at it, it's like when you get on the phone with the prospect, you're going to ask them what they want and why they're here and all these different things. And they will tell you. Mm-hmm. And then what your job is to help them get clear on the problem, right? And many of the times the problems are similar. Like, they don't even change.
Yeah.
It's like lack of clarity, lack of strategy, lack of support, like whatever it is. So you're going to tell them, hey, what, like, you become like a doctor. What I see is you're struggling with this, mm-hmm. right? But you want to get here. And they've already told you this and this. Mm-hmm. You're just putting it in a way that makes sense for them to hear back.
Yep.
Because they haven't had a connection back in their brain, and you're helping make the connection for them. Mm-hmm. And that is your role. So, like, the benefits in the sell, it's pretty much their words, yeah. right? They'll tell you, I want to be less stressed. I want to be able to have, for example, more happiness. I want to have more sex with my husband or my partner. I want whatever, mm-hmm. right? So they're really telling you what they want. You basically tell them the benefit is by the end of this, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, whatever the engagement is, that you're going to have more of what you want.
Yeah.
And then you can ask them, how do you feel? How does that feel? And they'll tell you, it feels amazing. And then you ask them why. And they'll tell you why. So they'll tell you the benefits by themselves. It's really, like, it's really that what it is. But, like, yeah. most times we overcomplicate it.
Isn't that true? So, yeah, because like you said, we have our own emotional blocks that come into play. So let's talk about that. Because I think that we make things much more hard than it needs to be. We complicate it, like you say, and we just get in our own way. It's like, I know for myself at one point, like, I would have this great conversation, like the pitch call or whatever you want to call it, the discovery call. And then right when it got to the point when I would ask for the sale, I would kind of back off and pull my energy out of the conversation and expect them to basically sell themselves because I was afraid to actually ask. So what do you find that people struggle with?
So I think for me, it's the context at the very beginning. So when I get on a sales call, I tell them this is a sales call, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to get to know you better. And then at the end of this call, we could see if we're the right fit to move on forward together. Mm-hmm. So I just put it out there from the very beginning.
I love that. I love it because that just like clears the deck and there's no confusion, right?
Yeah. And then, for example, for the prospects on the call, they know, actually, this is not like a dilly-dally chit-chat like of a new friend. This is actually, hey, no, it's because a lot of times people get confused. After half an hour, like, oh, this really feels very comfortable. I feel like we can be friends. But yeah, but I'm not your friend. Mm-hmm. Maybe eventually we will become friends. But right now, like, my goal is to see if I'm the right fit to actually help you, yes. right? So when you put that out there for the prospect, they feel much more confident that, hey, actually, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. For you, you feel much more okay. So when it comes to pitching the number or pitching the amount, your voice doesn't become like, after you've been like, because it happens, right? And yeah. like in my FFK program, we focus a lot on sales. So I hear the recordings of the students and we listen to them live in the course, and everyone's like, well, I kind of just like my tone just went down like 10 notches.
Yeah, or they stutter over the number, or they kind of brush over it.
Yeah, and for example, like, I have a stuttering problem. So like when it comes to some things, I stutter anyway. But then I've learned that even if I'm stuttering, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's just about like just being relaxed and calm and realizing that I have a choice. I don't have to work with this person if I actually don't like this person.
Yeah.
Because like for me, like I think that's the number one. Like if you're a business owner, you have to choose who you want to work with. So like I really encourage people to realize that actually on the sales conversation or the sales chit chat, whatever you want to call it, it's really about getting to know the person and seeing if actually you want to invest your time and energy, especially for the higher end products, for a group program, whatever. But for the high end stuff, because of the fact that you're going to be investing all the stuff and energy with them.
Yeah.
So it needs to be like a mutual like value system to be able to do that.
That's so true. I can remember a client that I wish I had never taken on.
And everyone has those stories. Yeah. And even if people tell you like avoid the one that doesn't feel good, at one point you're like, but it's money and I shouldn't be avoiding money. I'm just starting this thing. I should be learning. I should be whatever. And it's a little voice going on a tangent of useless stuff that will make no difference to us, but we get so sucked on it. And okay, I think we have to all go through it. So I don't really think it's a bad thing.
Right. It's a learning experience. And once you have one client that you wish you could just like have never had, you learn quickly never to accept another client like that. Yeah.
And now actually what I have is I have an operation manual. I actually have like a whole like document all about my ideal client and my not so ideal client.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear. So when I get on a call, I actually read it. So I'm thinking, okay, all right, that's not going to work out.
Yeah.
In their like assessment form, I see their form, like it's not going to work out because for me, like my biggest value is impact. And if you're only there to make income, like I can help you make a lot of income, but for me, it has to be with impact.
That's right.
So they're together, then I can't help you because I don't have the same values as you. Because money won't drive you, for me anyway, longer term. It has to be a combination of different things. So it's just about realizing like who would be your ideal person and then also why. And if it's not, then it's fine. The world is abundant with lots of clients anyway.
Yeah. Well, and going back to what you're talking about, the friend thing, I have a dear friend of mine, and I have done this too. I definitely have done this too, where you have that introductory call and like you say, everybody's feeling really good and really supportive and we're just having this great conversation and then you feel, oh gosh, but they seem like a person I could be friends with. And so I don't want to sell them something. And so I can see it in her because I've done it myself that everybody that she could have as a potential client becomes her friend. And then it's just like there is no money exchange. So do you find that happens a lot?
Yeah, it happens with some people more than others. And I think it's really because of the fear of being rejected, right? So instead of being rejected, let me really overcompensate. Let me overwhelm them with love.
Yeah.
Overwhelm them with love, then maybe they'll want to hire me. But the reality is, like, I look at it like this. I just example a lot. So my father passed away of 4-stage cancer, right? And if you know anyone has cancer before or like someone that you actually, a friend or something, you know that it's a really, for the people who are around them, the caregivers, it's the most horrible experience of their life. So I always say that, let's imagine that you had the cure of cancer, right? And you didn't want to tell me because you didn't want to sell me the cure or whatever it is. At that point, I fucking want the cure, right? I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And if you don't tell me, I'm going to get pissed off. So like, always look at it in terms of some of your customers really, or your prospects really need you, right? And you try to be friendly with them, you're actually being a disservice to them because they actually want to engage with you. So like, I would like the example of the cancer because for me, that's how extreme it is. Like, it needs to be like to the point where you realize that because whether it's cancer, whether it's an emotional dilemma, the pain in a human body can be exactly the same because we can't actually differentiate, some things over others. So they realize at the point that like your clients might be feeling how somebody is feeling when they're dying. And you could be the cure and actually helping them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example because it's almost that we're being kind of selfish in a way if we're not sharing what it is our gift is and we're withholding it from other people because of our fear of being rejected or whatever our emotional block might be. So what kinds of things have you struggled with in terms of these blocks that maybe you had to get through to really take your business to the next level?
So for me, when I started, I must have been 26. My biggest block was the fact that I was not good enough. I was not old enough. I was not experienced enough. And then the problem is that everyone around me was actually telling me those things.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of like reinforcing that. And then when it came to actually when I would have a sales meeting, because I was doing this the first year and a half, I was doing it with my job. I was doing the coaching with my job. And every time I'd have a sales meeting and I would feel like I was getting rejected because sometimes A, is not a good fit. Number two, I'm not the right person for that person, or they don't trust me, which is basically like the last thing, right? And I realized that I took it very personally and very emotionally because it was reinforcing my belief system that A, I was too young, I was too inexperienced, and I was not good enough.
Right.
And then I started to realize that, in the end of the day, it's something I really want to do. I started also taking note of the people's responses to working with me, right? Of the clients that I actually already had. And I started making a love file on my computer. Sounds really dumb, very simple. Just screenshotting emails, like photographing like letters and thank you notes, photographing flowers that I got from my clients, even gifts. And then I have this file and I realized, actually, those people's lives have been changed because of me, right?
Yeah.
And if the handful that are changing because of me are happening, I let them experience that change, then if I let go of myself, holding myself back because of I'm not old enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not experienced enough, then whose fault is that?
Right. Yeah. And really, those kinds of beliefs, it doesn't matter how old or how much experience we've gotten or how long we've been doing it, they're still going to show up because of our negative ego, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So how do you move through those, or how did you?
So the first thing was being of service. So shifting my mindset to say, actually, hey, I'm actually being of service. Which is why, and then also I read a quote by Jim Rohn. I'm not sure if you know this quote about saying that to be a millionaire, it's not about the $1 million. It's about the person that you have to become.
Yeah.
And then I realized that actually the person that I needed to become to grow my business is not who I am right now. But I didn't realize that I was comparing myself to who I was right now. So there was a big dilemma because I realized that actually, evolving and evolution is actually normal. So when I started to realize that actually I have to evolve to become better at my craft, I had to evolve to become better at my business, I had to become better to grow my team, it just became that I have to constantly be growing. Yeah. So for me, the whole idea of being fearless is actually not having no fear, but having the fear and doing it anyway. And that massive shift for me was the reason why I got through so much stuff and really helped me a lot. And then I invested in my own support system. So I invested in my own coach. I invested in my own mastermind because I realized that my energy level and my elevation level was a certain degree, and I had to get lifted up.
Yes.
And I couldn't do that alone. And that's why I always joke around that I said, building a business is like building a village. You can't do it alone. You have to have a village there to support you for it to grow. And I'm so thankful for the people that I have in my village because of the fact that there's no way, because my little voice would have just kind of got the best of me.
That's so true. And, having those people that support you and believe in what you do and can see it even when you start doubting yourself those days. And just having that support really keeps you on track. I mean, I have a couple of ladies in my mastermind. We have just the three of us, and every week we're doing this check-in, and it's just amazing what things can happen when you have that support system. Yeah, definitely.
And then they also push you as well. I know that, for example, I was doing the consulting for about 1.5 years. And I wanted to do a program, but I already had the program mapped out. I already had the material and everything because I've been doing with my clients. And they pushed me. Just it's like, okay, it's time. You want to do this now. You're doing it by this timeline. We have to get in place. And they just push you. Yeah.
Yep. They help you see where you could expand and you can kind of take things to the next level. Yeah. Where you might be fearful or you just might have a blind spot too. So let's talk about the importance of trust-based marketing and sales in building your business.
So for me, like essentially, somebody's going to hire you because they trust you. Because the exchange of money is very sacred, right? So if I'm going to give you, Angela, $10, for me, it's not a big risk. It's $10.
Yep.
But as the number gets higher, there's all these emotions attached to the money. So I really have to trust you. Because like internally, I think what happens to us, we're like saying, oh, scam alert, scam alert, scam alert. And then like we're so afraid to do that. So when you're doing the marketing, all you're doing is saying, hey, I can help you solve this problem, right? And here's how you can trust me. Here's who I am. Get to know me better. Get to know me personally kind of thing. Whether it's through the, the autoresponder sequences or through your videos or whatever it is. And then it's about, for example, like, here is my expertise. Here's some tips and tricks that can actually help you solve this problem right now, right? Without actually asking you for any money. And then, hey, if you still want more support, that's what I'm here for. I can help you serve you better, right? Those are for service-based businesses. But even when it comes to a product as well, depending on the price point, you have to do more stuff to build a trust. So if you look, for example, at a Nespresso machine, right? For coffee drinkers. I don't drink coffee, but the ads are everywhere. They have the ads to build the trust. Oh my gosh, like Richard Gere is drinking Nespresso. So obviously it can't just be this random like espresso machine. Like Richard Gere is endorsing it. And also the association in your mind is like, wow, like even he drinks from that machine. So the trust is being built, the credibility, how long it's been in the market for, your customers raving about the product or solution. So you hear all these things and then you help realize that actually, hey, I want to get the bandwagon as well. I want to actually invest in this program or this product or whatever that is that you're actually selling to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, the higher the price point, the more trust building you have. So are there some price points that you find are kind of like the tipping point in terms of how much contact you need with a potential client?
It depends on the industry. So I have some clients who are in recruitment, so their price point, the lowest price point is $20,000, right? So it's very different. For a designer as well, the price point could be like $5,000, but they could have, for example, a lot of great stuff that leads up to say, hey, like, wow, your guy was very effective. Your tips and tricks were very effective. So maybe I should hire you. So it really depends on what you're offering and also who you're targeting. Because if you're targeting somebody, for example, there's a company, I can't remember the company's name, but they only do landing pages, right?
Yeah.
But they only work with people who are much more established. So each landing page is about $8,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice price point.
It's a nice price point.
Yeah.
But someone just starting out, their business will never, ever engage with them, right? The ones who would engage with them are the ones at the $1 million mark, multi-million-dollar mark. So they want to invest at the best at every point of their funnel to get the best results. But at the very beginning, it's not the right price. So the idea of the price, it's very difficult because depending on your audience, depending on what you're offering as well.
So it sounds like, well, let me ask you, when you're thinking about your price point and your offer, it's like, I'm trying to get a sense of, do you figure out who you want to serve first? Do you want to figure out what you bring to the table and the offer that you want to put out there? Or do you figure out the price point you want to sell at? Like how does that work?
So first of all, I figure out the problem I want to solve. The number one question, first of all. And the next thing I want to do is I want to figure out for who, right? Okay. Because the for who has to also match my income goals. Or it has to also match my aspirations to build something as well, right? And then from there, I figure out the price point. And typically what you're going to find for any business, if they want to grow to 6 figures, 7 figures, or even beyond, there's going to be multiple price points.
Yeah.
Because you're building up the options for the customer to take this journey with you, right? It's a journey with the customer as well.
Yep.
So it's not only a one-time thing. So you have a variety of things as well.
Yeah, because I know you have a retreat that you do. So that's a higher price point.
That's a higher price point. And then I also have an online program that's a lower price point. But the group program is actually my funnel for the retreat as well as for my mastermind for next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm building these relationships so that in 6 months' time, when I open to sell, it's already been built,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like you're thinking, oh, okay, well, like for me, I look at it as like I want the average customer spend to be a certain amount of money, but the first thing that they buy from me, I won't make that money from that customer, right? And most people get this wrong. If you want to become like build your business to become a certain thing, your front end offer is the least revenue making product ever. It's a back end offer that makes you the more money because people are signing up to work with you again. They're referring their friends to you. They're coming to your retreat. They're signing up for example, for a coach for your VIP days, to your mastermind because like the value was so much for them that they want to work with you again.
Mm-hmm. And where do you feel that the value comes from? Is it from the relationship? Is it from the clarity of the offer? Where do you find that it, like, what's the secret sauce?
I think it depends on every business, but in my case, like, I focus on sales. So first of all, they become more confident in their business, but beyond that, they're making more money. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're making more money in a group format, they want to work with me again and come and work with me intensively. So for me, my matrix is confidence as well as, the fearless muscle as well as the sales. And if you have those two things, then obviously, like I promised I would help you get clients be fearless, then you work with me again to get more clients and become more fearless as well. Mm-hmm. Whether it's to scale up, whether it's to hire a team, whether it's to launch something that's different as well, another offering into your offering portfolio. But it's because you are like at a certain point where all these things make sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, when you're getting those results, then sure, they want to up level and take it further. It's like empire building is a work in progress, it sounds like. Yeah.
Actually, that's actually one of my mantras. So they all get a little thing because empire building is a work in progress.
I must have channeled it from you.
For sure. Part of the spiritual awakeness goddess.
That's right. The goddesses are like in sync. Okay, so gosh, I had a question I wanted to ask. Now I lost it. So let's talk about systems. Because I know you're big on systems, and I love systems to streamline and make work as easy as possible. So do you have any tips to creating systems that are going to help us take our businesses to the next level?
So typically, you have to figure out where you're spending most of your energy and most of your time, right? That's my number one. If you're focusing most of your energy and your time right now on onboarding a customer, then how can you make it actually step-by-step, dummy-proof, so that you can do it yourself or you can hire someone to replace you? Mm-hmm. Because as you're looking at building your business, you need to realize that you are the CEO, right? So you're focusing energy now, fine. You don't have the funds yet. You're doing the podcast editing, you don't have the funds yet. But once you have a way of doing that, once you do get the funds yet, you want to clear up space, you can obviously offboard to somebody to do it for you because you've been having it done a certain way every time. Mm-hmm. Certain intro, the certain editing, whether you want to have music, whatever you want to have. But they know this is Angela's step-by-step formula how it has to get done. So for me, I look at it in terms of like looking always at the time you're being spent and then how you can allocate that. Mm-hmm. I recommend everyone to use Google Sites. It's a free tool and it's amazing. And you can start to build operation manuals in Google Sites. Mm-hmm. And it's really simple, but it's amazing because the people can search for their option, what they're looking for. And also when at the beginning you may not have a team, but as your business grows and you have a team, they know where to find all the kind of information they can find, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So very clear and laid out. And I love how you say make it dummy proof. So that anybody can do it. Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, I used to do this systems for bigger companies, for my old company, which is actually like a multi-million-dollar. Actually, it's like I think it's a $400 to $500 million company, right? Mm-hmm. But in the reality is, like, first of all, you're working on so many projects and programs at the same time. You cannot remember. So as long as you make some kind of a plan, and then you kind of work out the plan, and then you use the plan as reference for the next time, you're creating a system in place anyway. And you know who to allocate for what. So you know, for example, for this, you allocate to this person. For this, to this person, to this person. So when you're taking on a project again, for the project to work out, I have to have on my team X people. It's a very clear system versus like, oh, okay, what do I have to do again?
Yeah.
And then you're going to forget because it happens. Like, one of the things I used to do in my old company is our chairman was a Saudi prince, right? So when you're talking with government, talking about with like royalty, the protocol is very different, right? If you expected me to remember the protocol, I would have died. But because I'm so systematic, I systemize everything in my life, I knew exactly, okay, so like he wants us in his room, he wants this kind of breakfast, he wants this kind of channels, he wants whatever. In the meeting, you have to have this arranged, and the sitting has to be like this. And because it's already all there, I can assign somebody a task, and they know the photograph of the layout of the room, they know what to order, they know what to do, because it's very straightforward.
Yeah. Very clean, concise. Like you said, it's so simple that anybody could follow that. So I want to talk about marketing. So marketing on, say, Facebook. How do you suggest people use Facebook to kind of build relationship or potentially get clients?
So it depends on your strategy, right? Some people who just focus on marketing on Facebook groups, and then they just basically like they'll spend all their time there answering questions, whatever that is. Then if that's your strategy, stick with it and do it every single day, right? If you're doing it through Facebook, like Facebook pages, unfortunately, the engagement level is very low. Yeah. So for me, like what you want to do, no matter what you're doing, is to get them off Facebook and onto your email database, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because on your email database, then you can build a relationship with them. You can break the ice with them. You can get them warmed up to the idea of working with you. And it typically is done through a series of autoresponders, right? And it's going to be like, hey, I promised you this. Here you go. Hey, check out the report, the guide, or the tool that I sent to you. This is what it is. So my name is Angela, and I do blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of like for the next like 2 weeks, like kind of onboard them to the idea of how awesome you are. Mm-hmm. So then it kind of like gets them to say, hey, I want to work with her, versus so much in terms of like only focusing on Facebook.
Yeah.
So like I personally, like I think the value of whatever strategy is important depending on what you want to do. But I don't have the time to be on Facebook to be chit-chatting with everyone, right?
Right.
I could, but I don't have it because my business got to a point where I have to focus on like my client, I have to focus on my program, I have to focus on actually improving stuff. So for me to spend like 2-3 hours on Facebook to get clients, I'll get clients 1 or 2, but I personally don't see the value of doing that, right? For me, where I'm at right now. So it really depends on what you're doing, depends on your budget, depending on what you can be doing right now, depending on how clear you are, what you're offering. But what I recommend that even if you are on Facebook, please do not change your mind every single 3 or 4 weeks. Like, I'm all for reinvention and figuring things out. But if you're changing your mind every 3 or 4 weeks, you're not giving your time enough space to actually build something in one certain area. Mm-hmm. If you're a social media expert today and then tomorrow you're like a copywriter, it's too extreme. People can't get on the bandwagon with it. You can't actually remember who you are afterwards. And if they don't know who you are, they don't remember what you do, you've confused them already. Mm-hmm. And if you confuse them, they can never hire you. Yeah. They're confused.
Yeah, so true. So true. So I think that that's an awesome point about getting people onto your email list as quickly as possible. And it seems like there's a way to automate that through Facebook in terms of like maybe systemizing what you're posting, when you're posting, what you're sharing, and that kind of thing. So do you, for your different levels of products, are you having a sales conversation for like your group programs and of course your higher level programs? But I'm curious, do you do like one-on-one intro calls to like group programs?
No. So for the group program, the price point is $797. So for me to get on the phone with somebody, it's not worth my time. So for that, I will do group sales. So I'll do that through my launch series. I'll do that through webinars, through email sales. But I won't focus on doing that because that for me is unfortunately, I can't allocate the time for that anymore. Right? At the very beginning, I would have. But then for now, I have my launch series where I actually have a Q&A call and I answer their questions. Right? And typically the questions are very similar. Also, you can avoid doing that by having a sales page with actually answering more questions. So, for example, you can have the questions answered by testimonials, for example. You can have the question answered by FAQ. The layout can be very straightforward. People can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, because you've been building a relationship, whether it's for like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you've already broken the ice with them. So then they want to work with you. But at the very beginning, that's, not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love hearing that your group programs, that, there is a way to build a relationship and systemize all of that so that it's a natural funnel that's feeding into your group programs. And so that's awesome. I love that. Because like I said, I like to simplify as much as possible. So
yeah, so let me share with you something, and maybe you can add this in the show notes. You might really enjoy this, because I'm very visual about things.
Me too.
All right, so here, for example, is what I call the trust-based marketing and sales funnel, right? You can attract your prospects in multiple ways. And there is no right, there is no wrong. The idea is to focus on a couple of them, right? If you're going to be doing, speaking or webinars, just do that, plus 2 or 3 other things, but don't try to do everything. Mm-hmm. Most rookies will try to do everything. Yeah. And in the end, they get burnt out, they can't sell, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when we're talking about sales, you can have a couple of things. You can have a sales page to sell for you. You can have an email autoresponder, a video autoresponder. If you are using, for example, like a software, a free trial, you can have, for example, a birthday and holiday offer, right, through a sales page. You can have here, these things, the second column, it's really where it's more manual, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You get on the phone, you do a live assessment, solution, whatever it is, but typically you're selling on the phone. Yeah. But there's actually multiple ways of selling. And the idea is, depending on where you are, you have to figure out what the right fit is for that program that you're selling for your audience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's so nice and clear. And like you said, rookies, and myself included, when you're starting out, you're trying all of those different things and just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what fits, what works. And then you end up just doing so much that you're like burning yourself out.
Yeah. It's because I think what happens is you get bad advice. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you don't get advice that actually focus. So you hear, for example, I built my empire from Instagram, right? Or I built my empire from Facebook. And they're all kinds of different people. Yes. And you don't know what they're doing, the whole story. You just hear parts of it. And then you're like, oh, I have to be on Instagram. I have to be on Facebook. I have to be on Twitter. I have to be on Periscope. Whatever the new like shiny objects are. And the reality is like, but maybe they're just focusing on one channel. And then the king and queen of that one channel. So, for example, I don't know her name, but the girl from the Dean Society, she's like an Instagram chick, right? And she gets all kinds of Instagram, but that is her main channel. Like, so her making her money is because she's taken one channel and done it really exceptionally well, right?
Yep. Yeah. So just choose what feels the best and what works the best for you, and then stick with it.
Yeah, and I typically would say like that the channel for marketing is fine, but I would recommend that in the end you still have to have channel for creating content. Mm-hmm. So in your case, like you're showing your expertise by having this podcast, right? Yep. But if you don't want to do a podcast and you want to write. If you want to do a video, do the video. But you have to figure out a way that your prospects as well as your customers say, hey, wow, like she is phenomenal or he's phenomenal, and they're obviously of value. Because Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they're all great, but you need to still be showing your authority by giving out good content.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like I say, it builds that relationship and the rapport without you having to manually build that. Yeah. So I'm curious, when someone is doing a lot of different things like we just looked at with the graph there, and they're not having sales conversions, what places do you look?
So I look, with a client, I look at 3 things. I look at how they're attracting the leads. Are the leads that they're attracting actually good leads for them, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, I had one of my clients right now, she told me like, oh, she has an amazing business, and she helps bands get more bookings, right? Mm-hmm. She helps them get more organized to get more bookings, right? So fantastic. So she was going to do a marketing campaign to help bands make their first music video, right? Amazing offer to offer as a free like training.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very valuable. Except that when it comes out to sell, offering that and saying, hey, I'm going to help you book more like gigs, maybe they're booking enough gigs, right? Maybe they don't need that. Maybe they are like focusing on the music video. They get so distracted in the music video, they don't even think about you anymore as like the girl. Because the reality is like we have to understand like the way we attract the leads and put the context in place also define our sales, right? So it's important to realize that. And then from there, it's like, for example, the sales conversation. I would much rather you have like 5 leads that you convert versus to have 1,000 leads that don't convert.
Right.
So for me, that's very important. So they then from there look at the sales, like, okay, what is happening on the sales call? And are you converting at a bad number? Like for me, like if you're a rookie, I always say 10%, right? I give you the worst case scenario. And then from there, we work up to 80%, but at the very beginning, it's 10%.
Yeah.
So we're going to listen to, okay, maybe, for example, you're not confident. Maybe because of the money part, you're like, your voice goes, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no shame in that.
No. We've all been there.
All been there, right? So for me, like, I look at it as the main thing is really the conversion module, like to see what happens, and then it's the retention, and then it's the attraction, right? Because if you're converting 1, right, which is fantastic, why can't you convert 2?
Yep.
Because it's better in the process. And then beyond that, I don't care like about converting more. I could care about how many do you actually keep, right? Because if a customer works with you once, can you get them to hire you on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis? Can they come and get you again? Because if you can do that, right, you're building the DNA level where you're actually having one strand working for you, and they're going to add more and more stuff. So when you decide to put the plug in to make it expand, it's not like a surprise. It becomes, well, actually, it's working. My machine is actually working.
Cool. Oh, I love all this. I love it. You just like simplified so many business ideas and concepts, especially for new people. So awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel left unsaid that you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, more with regards to the conversion stuff, I actually have a fantastic blog post all about sales funnels.
Awesome.
Which I can actually share with you because I think your audience will find it very valuable because it really goes into much more detail what I talked about right now as well.
Good. So I will definitely put a link to that on the show page as well. So if you were to give us one very practical tip that the listener can start using right away, what would that be?
So it's actually more a mindset thing than anything else.
Sure.
And for me, it's really that actually empire building is a work in progress, right? A lot of times we put ourselves down and say, oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is so horrible. It's not working. But in reality, you have to go through the experiences, and that's actually normal. So if you're ever having those doubts or that insecurity, just realize that actually it's a work in progress. Yeah. And the fact that you started is one step further than where you were last week, last year, even before that. And then from there, just realize that it's important to focus on sales because sales is the life at the bloodline. And if you're not making enough sales, then you're not making enough money, and therefore your dream will be killed. So if you don't know how to sell, learn how to sell. And feel comfortable with selling because selling is not easy. It's actually being of service. The example of my father with cancer, if you had the cure of cancer, please don't hide it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't have to have the cure of cancer, but whatever the cure you have, please don't hide it.
Yeah. You offer it. You don't need to shove it down their throat, but it's an offer, and that's you being of service. I love that. Awesome. Awesome. So tell us about the gift that you have for Academy members, because I know it's something awesome.
So I do have a 70 or 80-minute recording of actually how to have a sales conversation.
Ooh,
so perfect. I walk you through the 9 different parts of a sales conversation. It's a chit-chat, but this is basically, for me, like a roadmap in terms of how you can actually look at having a sales conversation. Now, obviously, this roadmap and this tool is something that you need to realize that you will have your own voice as it comes, and that's fine. But if you look at the structure behind it, it makes your life a lot easier. So it makes you realize that actually, hey, I'm actually doing something. I'm doing this really, really, I'm coming from a place of service versus anything else.
Yeah. Oh, people are going to love that. That's awesome. That's very generous of you. So thank you. Well,
no worries.
Thank you, Yasmine, for joining me today. Oh my gosh, this was absolutely amazing. I mean, I know I took so much from this conversation, so I know the listeners will too.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to also be of service.
Yeah.
And I love your energy. It's super, it's really lighthearted and very nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So how can the listeners get in touch with you? Because I know that people are going to just be like, ooh, I got to work with her.
So you can find me on my website, yasminekhater.com. And then also, if you are at the very beginning stages of your business and you want to build the first 5K every single month, we do have a program coming up in September called Earn 5K. And you can find that also at yasminekhater.com/earn5K. Get on the list. We do have a 10-day bootcamp before that, where we can dive into some high-level concepts. And then from there, we can actually see if it's the right fit to work forward together and work together.
Perfect. Oh, I know people are going to jump on that. Who doesn't want $5,000 a month from their business? That's awesome.
Well, if you want to make it replace your income and like help you live a life, that's in most cases the basic minimum. Because if you want to have a mortgage eventually, you want to have all these things. This is basically like the basic you need to have in place.
Yep. All right. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again. And now I'd love to hear from you guys. The most awesome discussions happen after the show over at theawakenedgoddess.com. So get yourself over there and leave a comment right now. Did you enjoy this episode? If so, subscribe to the show. And of course, it would be absolutely amazing if you share this with all of your friends. And if you want even more incredible resources, join Spark Spiritual Academy to get this month's Entrepreneur's Dream collection of bonus content. See you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Awakened Goddess. I hope you enjoyed today's show and took away something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at thegoddessnextdoor.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.